the last time the United States acquired new territory in the Western Hemisphere was, dun, 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 nobody remembers this, 1917, when we bought the Virgin Islands from Denmark. Oh. Weird, huh? Now, Trump wants to take us back to the 19th century and major acquisitions like Alaska, Seward's Folly, which we bought from Russia in 1867. Trump has his eye on Greenland and the entire nation of Canada. That would more than double the size of our country. He's also threatening to take back the Panama Canal by hook or by crook. What do all of these places have in common? Trade between the world's major oceans, facilitated by a new Northwest Passage created by the disappearance of the polar ice cap. Joining us to talk about this, and someone who knows a lot about American history, is Scott Stantis, editorial cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune. Scott is currently, I already mentioned that, he was previously a staff cartoonist for multiple publications across the country and contributed his work weekly to USA Today. He's the co-host of the DMZ America podcast with me, Ted Rall. He's a contributor to Center Clip and the winner of the Sigma Delta Chi Journalism Award, which I've never won. So there.
And of course, that's producer Robbie, because he is like a history and geography nerd. He's got a lot of opinions about this topic, I guess we
okay. Make America big again.
Bigly. This Bigger. Is like
bigly.
A bigly conversation. So we need a bigly panel.
Yeah, we should get a few more people in here.
We should. Yeah, it's by the way, can I jump in on that news story about alcohol? So now they're going to take away alcohol. Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, what's next? My meth? I mean, come on, man.
They're not taking it away. They're not taking it away. They're just saying put a warning label on it. Besides, don't drink when you're pregnant. They're saying, let's put a warning label on it and say this can cause cancer. So I don't think that's a bad thing. And Trump doesn't drink or smoke. Neither does Kennedy.
Biden. Joe Biden doesn't.
He doesn't drink? Oh,
he does not. Really? Yeah, we had 2 teetotals in a row.
How long has Biden? No Biden must have drunk in the past, yeah.
Apparently, he never did. I mean, I know. Given
what?
I guess he probably
I know.
All the IQ points he could scrape together.
I know.
You couldn't afford to lose any.
No, W, of course, famously stopped drinking, so we had another teetotal there. Obama had the first White House brewery, so he drank.
And he smoked too, quite secretly.
Yeah. Well, he tried to keep it secret, and so yeah, alcohol. Don't forget, George Washington made the first or sold some of the first whiskey in North America to counterbalance, because Americans drank rum back then, and that was a British product, and we didn't like that.
Part of the slave trade.
Rum?
Yeah, whiskey was not made by George Washington, by the way. Just if you're gonna, slaves may have been involved. Right. In fact, definitely were. So yeah,
I did not know rum was a British thing.
Yeah, because that's why they took over. That's why they love the Caribbean so much, because they grew sugarcane and brought slave labor there to cut it down. And slaves were on average, their life expectancy once they were shipped to the sugarcane plantations was 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Fun thing about rum is also used as an embalming fluid to preserve the corpses of people who died and needed to be shipped back to England.
That's a
great cycle of life.
Yeah,
it's kind of a waste of good rum, though.
Yeah. Delicious.
It was like Horatio Nelson. Whenever he was killed at Trafalgar, like they actually stuck him into a barrel of rum, and that's how they preserved him.
Oh my God! Could you imagine?
Yummy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know.
But on that note,
TMI.
I just want to say, and maybe you guys will understand this when I yell from the bottom of my heart, 54-40 or fight.
I do.
Anyone?
Yes, I know.
Anybody? Robbie?
That's the U.S.-Canadian border.
It was the Oregon. It was one of the slogans for Polk, James K. Polk, arguably one of our top 5 greatest presidents, by the way. Highly underrated.
True.
But one of the things he said he would do, and he did it. 54-40 or fight was the parallel in the Oregon Territory. America and Britain were there, and for many years they just sort of were there together, hunting and killing things and shipping them back to wherever they shipped them back to. And then it became more and more of a territorial thing on the heels of the War of 1812, which left a bad taste in Americans' mouths for the British, not surprisingly. 54-40 or fight was the slogan. Polk, Manila, you laugh at James K. Polk, but let me just say, the man ran, said, here's my litany of things I'm going to do. Annex Texas, 54-40 or fight, get us on lower tariffs. And he did all those things. And he said, okay, I'm done.
Was
One
that
term.
was San Juan Island part of that? San Juan Island?
No, they gave that San Juan, you mean in Puerto Rico?
No. San Juan Island,
In
off
Texas?
the coast of Washington.
Oh, I see. It was actually, if you look at the map, it goes around it. That was ceded to the British. So that, I mean, American expansion, we've been doing it, and countries have been doing it. It's one way to, I mean, it's a way to grow your economy. Now they're talking about buying Greenland, and Greenland keeps saying we're not for sale. Donald Trump keeps saying.
Although Russia used to say that Alaska was not for sale. And France kept saying that Louisiana, which, is a third of the United States.
Everybody's got a price.
Was not for sale.
Yeah, everyone's got a price. But the thing about Louisiana.
And the Greenlanders want independence, right? Their prime minister.
Yeah, they tried to have it.
We want to free ourselves from the shackles of Denmark.
But becoming America's another Puerto Rico, like northern Puerto Rico, I mean, would that really give them independence?
Well, here's the thing. Greenland does have a functional electrical grid. So they do have that going for them.
And not that many hurricanes.
So, no, and one thing about Oregon, about Polk, a lot of people don't realize this. The United States almost went to war with the British Empire over a pig. So, I mean, there are parallels.
So there were good reasons too.
There were.
Because this was a special pig. You want to tell the story, Robbie?
Yeah. Well, what it was is that it was so there's this Canadian farmer, and his pig kept going into this American farmer's yard and kept eating his crops. So the Americans shot and killed the pig, and it created like this huge international incident. I mean, honest to God, we nearly went to war with the British Empire because an American shot a Canadian pig. I kid you not.
So Greenland. Let's talk about Greenland. There's about 60,000 people who are basically Inuit who live there. And
that's their prime minister right there. His name is Mute.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be funny? His name is
Moot.
That's it.
They're kind of Bjorky up there.
Are they?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's from Iceland, though.
I know, but it's the same thing.
Iceland, Greenland.
No, I mean, it's half Inuit, half Danes, right? That's who they are. So there's almost no one lives there. The territory is vast. You can't get from the few little villages that are there to another. There's no roads that connect them. You can go by sea or you can fly. That's about it. And it's very hard and arduous to do it. It's extremely rugged. But, I mean, Scott and you and I were talking about this morning before the show. And I was saying, I think Donald Trump has tapped into something here.
Yes. Yeah.
I was born in 1963, just 3 years after we added our last state. And when I was a kid, it was kind of like, well, we had it. We added a new state every time we have. You learn every time we add a new state from time to time. Then we put a new star on the flag. Sometimes we amend the Constitution. But we don't do that any of that stuff anymore, right? There's a sense. So for 65 years now, we haven't added a new state. We can't even really upgrade the places that we have to statehood, like Puerto Rico.
Right.
And so we can't amend the Constitution. There's a sense that the United States was growing, expanding, bigifying, and now we're kind of stuck. We're like old Europe. We're that's it. I mean, we're not getting any bigger. We might get smaller, but we're not getting any bigger. And I think there's a sort of sense of we've lost our mojo, our sense of ambition.
Ted, we're getting bigger.
Glory.
We're getting bigger within our own borders. Have you seen our obesity numbers?
It's 75% by some standards. Yeah.
Holy Mary. No, but don't forget now. There's a historic background. I'll just bullet point it as much as I can. Do you remember, Ted? You might remember this better just because you're a Francophile. The Quebecois independence vote Was that about 10, 15 years ago?
I think it's longer.
Yeah, it may have been a little longer.
I think
And it was
like
very
20 years ago, 25.
and it
years
was
ago.
close. Now, had it succeeded, if you look at a map, Quebec, the province of Quebec, pretty much slices Canada by a third, and the maritime
And by
provinces were
population, it's more.
right. Well, okay, but obviously because Montreal's awesome.
And
But anyway,
nobody really lives in like Manitoba or Saskatchewan, you know.
I'm
well,
good with that.
yeah, they're too quiet up there. By the way, they do scare the shit out of me because they're just way too quiet. They're up to something.
Saskatchewan.
But during the separatist movement, the maritime provinces were talking about what would they do because there'd be this huge gap between them and the rest of Canada. Should Quebec secede? And they were saying, well, we'll join the United States. And the United States went, well, that's our first response was, well, that'd be kind of awesome. The second response was from the Republican-controlled Senate, oh no, because you'd have three primarily poor provinces becoming states, and you'd have 6 new U.S. senators who would come from the Democratic Party, and so they were adamantly opposed to that. British Columbia also said, well, if they do that, then we'll do it too, leaving 2 provinces for Canada. We've grown. I mean, we've always had manifest destiny. The United States has always looked to expand to be, and that was the thing, particularly in the 19th century. 20th century, early in the 20th century. I mean, look what Teddy Roosevelt did. Panama wasn't a country, by the way, folks. You may not know this. Panama, he made up a country. There's some guy who was a bit of a shyster who was Nicaraguan, was part of Nicaragua. And
I thought it was Colombia.
Was it Colombia? Colombia. You're right. I apologize. Colombia. And then, so they flew him to Washington and said, okay, you want to be the president of Panama? He goes, the what of what?
And then he started going, Panama. Sorry.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, exactly. And then that became its own country, of which we immediately signed a treaty with to build the canal. This is us, man. This is us. So the purchase of Alaska.
We can reach out to the Greenlander independence movement, which is a thing. Most Greenlanders do want independence from the brutal regime out of Copenhagen. And they dream to be free. It should be pointed out, although I'm not sure why this is germane, that New York City is closer to Nuuk than Copenhagen is.
Yeah, I mean, they do have.
You are muted again, unfortunately. I think
Isn't that crazy?
Your mic is dying. Yeah.
Do y'all think that there would be something kind of like the USS Maine in Havana Harbor? Do you think like an American fishing boat will sink in Greenland?
That is exactly.
Could y'all see this happen? I can.
Yes.
I 100% see this happening. I'm not saying we're going to sink a battleship there, but a fishing trawl, maybe a Coast Guard cutter, maybe maybe an American drone will go down. All you need is an excuse.
Robbie, you got to explain about the Maine. I think
help us remember the Maine.
Remember the Maine.
Well, I mean, it was the catalyst for the American-Spanish War because the United States, they decided that they were going to send the USS Maine to flex American muscle in Cuba, which at the time was a part of the Spanish Empire. It was the last Spanish possession in the Western Hemisphere. And lo and behold, the ship just exploded. No one knows why. It just went kablooey.
Well, we do know now.
A bunch of Americans, but not back then they didn't.
Yeah.
And so a bunch of Americans died. And so in true American fashion, it's Spain's fault. They decided to blow up our ship in Havana Harbor. 100%. So we're going to go in and we are going to take the Philippines from Spain. We're going to take Guam from Spain. We're going to take Cuba from Spain and Puerto Rico, which is now a giant floating pile of garbage, according to.
And that's why we have Guantanamo Bay all to ourselves.
Well, you know why?
My favorite detail of the Spanish-American War, and it is an amazing story, because it's really when the American Empire as we know it begins, right? But my favorite part is William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper magnate. He was agitating for war. And so he had his man in Havana waiting, and at one point nothing was going on, and he telegrammed. He sent a telegram to Hearst and said, "Nothing's up. Should I come home?" And Hearst famously telegrammed back and said, "You stay home. You stay there. I will supply war."
Yeah. And another just funny little aside. I cannot remember the name of the officer, but there was this officer who was a general in the American Army there in Spain. In the war between the states, he was actually a Confederate soldier. Well, during one of the fights in Spain, he was just like, "Let's go get those damn Yankees." And one of his subordinates looked at him and said, "Sir, we are the Yankees now." And it was just, I cannot remember the guy, the name, but just Google it. I mean, it's a hilarious story. Let's go get them damn Yankees.
By the way, just to be clear here, what happened really was that the boiler blew up, as anybody who's had a boiler knows can happen.
If that's the story you want, that makes you happy, Ted.
I did not know that story, but
for the Spanish Empire,
never let a crisis go to waste. Isn't that right, Rahm Emanuel?
Yeah.
Well,
that's right.
That's true. See, that's why producer Robbie is like a wealth of weird knowledge, because I didn't know that. I just wanted to point out this. So this map. So we're talking about Greenland. Trump wants to buy it, and people laugh, especially the Democrats, right? And he's coming back into power in a matter of days. They laugh, but to Trump's, and I laugh too, but to Trump's credit, if we look at the map, I mean, we think of the world we know it's round, right, in space, but we think of it as flat earthers.
Breaking news.
People think of the world as a flat map, right? So if you look at it over the top, over the North Pole, strategically, why Trump would want it actually makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. It has, it's
the globe's bald spot.
Yeah, like look where it is, look where Russia is, look where China is, and the North Pole is right there. And I've flown over it when I used to live in Dubai, and I used to fly straight over it to fly to California from Dubai.
If you fly from, say, many places in Europe, you end up flying over the Arctic. You go over Greenland, Iceland. You'll see those very rugged places, and then northern Canada.
It is a very geostrategic position to be in,
especially now that the ice cap is melting away due to climate change. The ice cap has now disappeared completely in the summer months. Used to be
not completely,
really, but it's mostly. It's predicted to be completely gone soon.
But I mean, look at the
so
globe
basically, this
as
is
a
the
round
dream of
thing.
the dream of the Northwest Passage, right? I mean, that's what all these things have in common, right? The Panama Canal, this Greenland idea.
Well, natural resources that have not been fully explored.
And trade, more than natural resources, right? And also there's a lot of oil under the Arctic, something the Russians have.
And natural
I don't know if you
gas.
guys remember these episodes where Russian submarines sent divers down. This is a long time ago, right after the collapse of the Soviet Union. But Russian Federation submarines planted flags at the bottom of the Arctic Sea to be like, Russia has a claim to the Arctic Ocean and all of the oil that's underneath it, and we want that shit and they think they have the biggest claim because they have Siberia.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, from a historical standpoint, empires need to expand. If they don't expand, they stagnate,
right,
and they start to deteriorate. I mean, that's one of the reasons that Rome fell. Trajan he conquered Dacia, so okay, we can't go anymore. Well, a lot of historians say that was the fatal mistake that ended the Roman Empire, because then all of a sudden you have all these legionaries who are no longer getting paid. They were getting paid by all the loot that they were getting. They can't get the loot because there's no more expansion. So then what you do, you start cannibalizing the state. What do you do in late stage empire, which is where we are? You expand or you die. I mean, there is a correlation here, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a case to be made.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, you look at, Manila, you mentioned people laughing. Alaska, we're looking at, we have this map up right now, and there's Alaska, right there. And that's Seward's Folly is what it was called. It was laughed at. Why would we want it? Why would we do it? It was pretty inexpensive, relatively speaking. And we got it. And I think that you laugh at this idea at your peril. To Robbie's point, this could be remember the Maine kind of moment could happen up there. We don't have a lot of Americans up there, so you're not going to have them. But let's assume for a moment we do have a base, if I'm not mistaken. We do have some kind of naval presence there. The USS Bozeman is at a berth there, and it gets blown up by I'm sorry, Greenlander separatist. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try not to laugh, but and that
or
could
a false flag Inuit operation.
Well, yeah, and you could have a false flag operation, as Ted mentioned about the Maine. Was that clearly? I mean, the Lusitania is another example that the ship that the Germans sank.
I don't think that was a false flag thing with the Maine. I think the Maine was kind of like the Reichstag fire. It happened legitimately, but then it was spun.
Well, but the Nazis blamed the socialists for starting it.
9/11 happened legitimately, but it was spun. It's like, oh, let's attack two countries that had nothing to do with it.
Well, except Afghanistan did have training camps.
Nothing.
Well, board soldiers are dangerous. I mean, if you have a militaristic society, you got to keep your army busy, or they start asking questions, and that's a bad thing.
Can you have a non-military society if you're a Western society or any culture?
Greenland has one. They don't have a military at all.
Well, no, I mean the many countries don't. Not many, but some don't.
Yeah, some countries don't.
Nothing
would happen if the U.S. only just decided to contract and guard its own borders. Nothing would happen. No one's coming for us.
Yeah, I don't.
The Mexicans aren't coming. The Canadians aren't coming. The Cubans aren't coming.
Like no one's going to invade us. Is that what you're saying, Ted?
Yeah,
like
no
invade us
invade.
in the traditional sense with like ships
like
and
Germany invading
occupation,
invading Poland. It's not going to happen. The United States is not at risk. We're in such a safe. Look at that map. I mean, we're so safe. We only have land borders with two countries that are both vassal states. We've only been attacked territorially, really in a meaningful way in 1812 was the last time. You could say, okay, the Japanese occupied a couple of the Aleutian Islands during World War II, but Alaska wasn't a state at the time. It was a territory. I mean,
and look,
nobody's
speaking
trying
of
to invade
Alaska,
us.
Ted.
Pardon?
If speaking of Alaska, Ted, I mean, if we look way up there, because this is looking at the world as a round thing instead of a flat map, right? Sorry, flat
I have
earthers.
to say this is still flat. This is a flat.
It is still flat. It's 2D. It's 2D.
It's
yes,
just
but
a different angle. Okay.
It's a different angle flat, but this makes you think of it as round because it's drawn round. I'm so sorry, my flat earther friends. I love you. But up there to the very top of the picture, that's Alaska, where Sarah Palin says she could see Russia from her doorstep, right? She's not entirely wrong.
Well, she didn't really say that, but all right. Yeah.
But sure. Like
Tina Fey said that she said that.
But that's the trope, So there you go, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can, so strategically for the U.S.
that there were Alaskans who could see Russia from Alaska. And she's right in the Aleutian Islands.
And she's right. I mean, look, that's, I'm to her credit, that's true. I mean, look, so if the U.S., I mean, we have troops in Alaska, obviously, they can almost touch Russia. And if we took Greenland, I don't know, you can't do it militarily anymore because we're part of some, like UN Geneva shit.
Yeah, because the U.S. never invades any country.
Because we don't invade pale-skinned countries. But if we took Greenland, then you would also be on top of Russia because Russia is to the right of where it's written there, North Pole. That big landmass is all of Russia. So you would be strategically surrounding Russia as much as you can.
Well, the United States does have history of invading Canada. I mean, they've invaded it twice. So, I mean, so there is that. And also, I can see Canada from my house. So I felt threatened by those Canadians coming down, driving up prices whenever they go to Target. I mean, to me, it's a major issue. And I have no problem with what Trump is proposing. I think it's a great idea.
So let's take them one at a time, right? Let's take them one at a time. I'll save the most fraught for last, Panama. All right, so, well, maybe Canada is the most fraught, actually. All right, so I'll take Canada last. All right, Greenland. That's the one that could happen, right?
There's their flag. It's a solid flag.
It's not a bad flag.
Oh, that's
Greenland
cool.
could. I mean, look, the Danes have sold property to us before. They sold us the Virgin Islands. We gave them money. It wasn't that long ago. It was 100 years ago. They remember. They know how to do it. I mean, the Greenlanders want independence from Denmark anyway. I could see a situation where the United States says, we're going to throw a shit ton of money at you guys. There's only 60,000 of you. We're going to give you each $1 million. Everyone's like,
Shut up and vote.
Done. They vote. They vote to join the United States as a territory with like certain level of autonomy. Maybe they, unlike the Puerto Ricans, they get like a guaranteed their electricity continues to happen. If there's any hurricanes, unlike Puerto Rico, we guarantee to help them. That kind of thing. Or maybe
Greenland
throw
is
paper towels at them.
Greenland is the Taiwan of Denmark.
We
remember.
could get Greenland.
So, I mean, it is
Greenland
autonomous.
we could get.
Sort of.
It's possible. I think it's about the price. I think if there was enough money, we could get Greenland.
They supposedly, based on like economists and analysts have done the math on this, based on their existing economy, property values, blah, 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 and the industry that's there, it would cost America roughly $2 trillion to buy, roughly, give or take.
We've got that.
Yeah, we can print that in an hour.
$39 trillion in debt. What's the difference? Put
Yeah,
it on the
no,
card.
Yeah, put it on the card.
Not our tab.
Greenland for everyone. All right.
Well, I mean, but that's the beauty of having a printing press, right? I mean, what is money if you can just keep throwing out zeros? It's not like you're debasing your currency or anything, but who cares?
That's my point. Exactly my point.
Can I
Glad we're on the
also
same
point
page,
out
Robbie.
that once Trump said this, so this is like coming from Euronews. So Denmark says they're going to boost Greenland's defense capacity. This is what they're throwing at it, right? 1.3 billion euros. They're sending 2 ships. I don't know what kind. It could be just like fishing boats. Some more staff and 2 dog sled teams.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're done.
Are you serious? I did not heard that.
It's on the
Once
screen.
those
Look at the
Spidey
screen.
fuckers are coming after us, those fucking